So that's basically the context that we want to talk about today, which is about inclusive Malaysia and how we use different intersectional approaches to achieve these diverse workplaces that we have in Malaysia. And what we have been doing is that we have had conversations around this inclusivity, inclusion space internally within our Manulife Malaysia, and also we had the Malaysia Inclusion Summit that we had last month on the 14th of October, which all these wonderful speakers have been moderating and leading the conversations at the summit. And what is interesting about this space is that when we have this conversation, it becomes more familiar in our thought process. It becomes ingrained in our thought process, and that's what we want to do continuously. Every single time we have the opportunity to speak about it. And I wanted to not take all the conversation here in this speech, so I want to start off. I just want to kick off this conversation with Vibha, because we have had this conversation ongoing in not just Manulife Malaysia, all over region and globally. But as you have this conversation, I wanted to check in. What are the opportunities that you see as a MNC, as a business? What are the opportunities that you have seen and observed within this space on a strategic point of view?
Thanks, Abby, and can I also add Abby's welcome to all of you. And thank you for being here, because this means you're really interested in what we have to say. And thank you also, I was going to say to Anna and Grace, for making time for us today. A very important topic, and I think when we talk strategic imperatives, it's literally easy to say, well, it has to do with profits, that's why you must be doing this. And guess what? That's not untrue. That's not untrue. So research has actually shown that people, not only with diverse, because there's no use having diversity if you don't include them, right? But with inclusive mindsets actually create organizations which are more profitable, which make better decisions, which have higher sort of sense of also giving back to community. So when we think about that, we all know inclusion is the right thing to do. So let's not even go there, because that's the right thing to do. But it is commercially a very viable thing to do. The second thing is, if we are not inclusive, we miss out on a whole lot of talent out there in the market who could give us different perspectives and add to that sort of thought process. We also give up having customers who are diverse. So in this Malaysia we're working, we have different families, different life stages, different abilities. So how do we actually participate in that? Now, the opportunities we have in what we do, we could easily put up our values on a chart, stick it on the wall, or I could run a campaign. Our CMO is here. Please run a campaign, Marilyn. We run a campaign on it. But what does that actually mean? It means nothing. And so, if I think about maybe three, I just want to give you some proof points, right? I mean, what have you done? Now, we should put, like I said, embed this into our daily working, operating processes. So when we come up with solutions, we've got three categories. I just wanted to share these with you. Not that these are, they're not the be all and end all. The first one is women's health. The second one is retirees and people in their golden years. And the third one, and women's health, I think this will really resonate with you also, Anna. And the third one is with families. So while we have individualistic kind of offering, what do we do for families? So let me say about women's health. So we've got something called Precious Gift, which is for the new mother in terms of covering the child without any underwriting. It is about mental health. All of us forget this. We just think it's a physical part we need to look after. But what happens during pregnancy, before, after? So that whole idea of that. We have a flagship health product. So there's a preventative part of it, which we include HPV vaccinations, cervical cancer. So I know a lot of this also ties into the national agenda on women's health, so we do that. For retirees, it's literally making sure when they really need the money and need the care in later years, that we are able to create something for them which doesn't need any medical underwriting. They're able to pick something up, which then 70 and over for their relevant needs. You know, it can be utilized, a product like that. And I hate saying product because it's not like a product. You can't feel and see it, right? You have to experience it. That's why I call it a solution all the time. And the third part is families. So when we think about families, you know, the fact that we should look at 4 stages when families are together. The preventative, the detective, care of course is what we do, and post-care. So vaccinations, health checks, of course, you know, your medical care, treatments, but post-treatment, again, mental health, we come back to that all the time. And then having a high limit of like 20 million ringgit. So I know you said you didn't want to take up all airtime, but that's because you're passionate, Abby. And as you can see, I get very excited about this too, so I better give the mic back to you.
No, that's the thing, is in the product design, and I mentioned earlier, it has been embedded in the thought process of how we run how we design our proposition of products. But I also, when you mentioned about it could be just an area or a topic, but now I want to shift it, Anna, because on ground from the customer, because we're providing that those solutions, but from Anna, from the customer perspective, and that's how you founded Lumirious as well, from experience, right? Maybe you can share from that point of, because we're talking about intersectional. We can go from the overview of the industry, but what is it on ground? Maybe you can share how,
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Anna. And then, as you can tell my name, I'm Japanese. I've been living in Malaysia since 2017, so it's been 8 years. I love Malaysia. Yeah. The reason why I started Lumirious is because of my personal experience. I had a miscarriage. Then the time I was in Malaysia, then it was a really sad experience, and then I couldn't talk to anyone, and then it was lack of information, and then I like support as well. Then after that, I start to speak to my friends and people around me, and then I realized not the only one I had this experience. Many people experience, and many people need help, but lack of support. Yeah, but not only fertility, but also women's health in general. Almost like 75% of women face some difficulty or something for menstrual health. Like every month they face some issues like period pain and so on. But it's quite huge, but still lack of support up to today. Yeah. So there is a huge gap, in this women's health. Yeah, so that's the reason why I thought we need to build something. Yeah, that's the reason why I start Lumirious. And then right now, we do provide B2C and B2B support. For B2C, we provide, online consultations provided by our partner doctors, so that people, we don't need to rely on Google or ChatGPT. Yeah, so we can get right and reliable information directly from the doctors. Then other than that, like we realize accessibility and affordability is another problems. Then for this, we work with the clinic and hospital, so it can be transparent and they know what they need to do. And then also the costing part, we work with the corporate, and then we provide employee benefit program, so we can support not only women's health but also men's health. Yeah, so we cover like gender-specific health issues throughout corporate employee benefit.
Thank you, Anna. And I think the consultation, when you I remember Manulife, we have lunch and learn, where we learn a lot about new things. And when our people are there, the doctors who came and talk about issues, whether it's mental health, whether it's women's health, we started thinking about it, because we are all customers, we are all also people around the environment. And this I want to shift with Yoon Yee, because how do you drive that conversation? Because it's not just getting external people talking about it, right? It's not just getting consultations only when you experience it, but how do you then create a space where people who are within the organization will talk about it and will be part of their thought process, and leading back to designing the solutions, because we are part of this conversation as well.
So very good afternoon to everyone. You can call me YY or Yoon Yee. I'm the CEO of Manulife Malaysia. First and foremost, Andy, I think, let me just start with a little bit of a story here. So in Manulife, basically, I heard Vibha was saying that it's actually premised on the values, the culture itself. So we have really great values, 6 values, but it's just tagline where, unless you actually sort of started to actually do it on an everyday basis, make it real, then you make a difference. But it's still tagline. The most important part is to create awareness, make people understand it. So with a lot of help from our partners like Enabling Academy, Lumirious, which we will also invite you in the coming cycle. The idea is actually to create a platform for our colleagues to be able to understand and appreciate. What does it mean ultimately? Be kind to people. So we actually have this great tagline, share your humanity. Now that tagline itself can mean a lot of things until and unless people start to understand. So that's where, I'm really happy to be part of this role, to be able to bring some of the speakers, being able to work with partners, to actually allow our colleagues to be part of the journey. So that's something that I feel I made the difference by just bringing people to come along to make them understand. So if I can steal a little bit of time in here. So last month, we actually had the Inclusion Summit. Now, if you have not actually, heard about it, can I encourage you to actually, search for this Inclusion Summit? The very first time Manulife Malaysia actually co-organized it with SCMP. Now this summit, what difference that we made to the community in Malaysia is definitely to bring in a lot of speakers. Now, these are conversations that sometimes we never talk about, not because we don't want to, but we don't have the opportunity. And to be able to actually hear this, sorry about the mic, but I'm loud enough, right? Good? Okay, great. So, what I want to emphasize is, I'm good at it. Okay. Just
manage for now?
Yeah, so just,
Alright, cool.
just a little bit of, what Abby was saying. How do we actually bring those kind of topics to real? And how do we bring the values to real? It's definitely to create that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
By bringing partners along, by creating the awareness for our people, and hopefully, by this kind of sessions with the media, we hope to be able to spread the messaging that inclusion is actually, something that is not just a tagline. It must be real. It must be embedded as well in our day-to-day.
Right. Thank you. I like that you're kind of like sharing our values as well as what Vibha mentioned, but also tying back to what the real life cases are, like how Anna also shared earlier. But now I'm just going to segue a little bit to Grace, because I know you do this employment transition plan under Enabling Academy, and as Yoon Yee mentioned, to bring partners to have that better understanding within, not just to include them within our workplaces, but also to how to realize their full potential within the workplaces, because as you see, representation in the decision making is what inclusion is in an organization. So maybe you can share a little bit on that, the things that you lead, the initiatives that you lead under Enabling Academy, and how does this people that you put placement in the different organizations thrive, right? Over to you, Grace.
Thank you. So a very good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Alright, so first of all, for those who have no idea what Enabling Academy is, so let me just give you a quick introduction. Actually, back in 11 years ago, Gamuda had already started the journey of hiring people with autism to work in Gamuda. So till now we have 21 employees with autism that are working across 19 departments in Gamuda. And 11 out of 21 have achieved more than 10 years of service in Gamuda. So when we first started this, And there was, of course, a lot of challenge and all, but the thing is, because of the ecosystem that have been in place, we managed to witness some success stories. Hence, 3 years after we actually started this initiative, we set up an Enabling Academy so that we can encourage more companies to come on board, not just Gamuda who is hiring, but more companies that we call as partner companies to embrace neurodiversity together, to embark into this journey of hiring people with neurodivergent conditions. What do I mean by neurodivergent conditions? That means whose brain is wired in a very different way. They are thinking differences, but it doesn't affect how they actually contribute to the society. So usually we refer to people with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and etc. So this is actually why we want to set up an Enabling Academy, in which we actually provide a fully sponsored 3-month transition program to equip the neurodivergent individuals before we place them into respective partner companies. And we are grateful that we are connected to Manulife. Currently is our partner companies whom they have actually started to offer internship opportunity to our graduate, and there are 2 more that will be actually onboarded as well. So I think just now Abby also get me to share some success stories of how they thrive in the workplace. So I think one of the success stories that we see that a lot of people who have the stigma and misconceptions that they are only suitable for certain roles based on their stigma about this group of people. But we have seen the success stories that, like in Gamuda, we are doing construction, right? So we do have someone with a master in engineering background with autism. So maybe people may doubt his ability of being an engineer, but given the opportunity, he thrived in Gamuda Malaysia branch. And after the 5 years, and he was doing so well that the team would like to bring him to Singapore for our project. And now he has a career progression of being promoted to work in Gamuda Singapore. So this is just one area that we see. And the other areas that I want to highlight is a lot of them maybe because of the education system in Malaysia. So even though they may have the ability to be able to function and contribute, but because of the education system, not all can actually get an official, complete, formal degree qualification. So we have one that we do see talents and potentials in him, but he didn't complete his degree. But the thing is, he has proven that he has some potentials. So our transformation team took him in and we make some adjustment and modification that we kind of allow him to prove himself, that we make some adjustment, even though usually that post is meant for degree holder, but because we see beyond the qualification, he was given that role, and after 1 year, he truly showed to HR and everyone else that he can really deliver. So now he has been promoted to another grade, even though he doesn't have that degree qualifications. So we have also seen some success stories where the moment that you include them into the workplace, it is not just beneficial to the neurodivergent individuals themselves, but also to the people working alongside with them as well, especially the line managers and all. There is so much that they have gathered in terms of their leadership qualities, and also we have seen there are more disclosure that as they work together with the neurodivergent individuals, there are more people that come forward to identify themselves as neurodivergent as well. And I think this is one of the psychological safety that we see that it is happening. Yes.
So
It's working now.
sorry, I just want to actually, write on what Grace was sharing just now. And it's so true. Basically, the benefits from us actually experiencing it. So last year, we actually brought in one HR intern. Now, one of the things is basically, it's easy to say, you must actually, support this initiative, but without which, I think I'm very loud. I realize that.
Turn it on.
That's why. That's why I'm in HR and not in technology. I just want to actually thank Enabling Academy in my journey to actually also learn. Even for my level, sometimes it's a lot about learning. So last year we actually brought in one of our candidates called Lawrence, and it was an amazing journey. Not just because we thought that this is a good thing to do, but in the experience itself, just a short 3 months, the amount of learning that we get as a HR person, as a team, it was superb. A lot of times, we realize that, we are doing them maybe a favor. But in exchange, what I learned was basically so much to learn from this individual. The tenacity, the clarity of thought, sometimes the ability for them to actually speak up and challenge our thought process. It's amazing. Now that also to add on, right, what the team experienced was, oh, why? I now realize that, it's not easy. Let me just be very real. It's not an easy journey, but it requires a lot of understanding, a lot of patience and understanding, and also acceptance. Don't change them sometimes. It's a lot about, fixing the environment, and you can actually get a lot of benefits from it. So thank you, Grace, for getting us along.
Right. If we were to pass the mic to Anna, because suddenly as this conversation going, because we're talking about partnership, right? Within the corporates and people and organizations that provide the workforce, and this is at a very bigger scale. But looking at this, and what Grace mentioned just now is breaking that stigma. So I want to go back to Anna, because when you founded Lumirious, it is based on this stigma, on this issue, right? But when you hear this partnership, collaboration that is happening, and you talk about inclusion, right? So how does this help, like, small enterprise, social enterprises that drive impact-driven mission, specific mission for you? How do you reflect on this partnership and collaboration?
So for Lumirious, I founded 2020. Then it's been quite, frankly speaking, not easy journey, because first of all, this women's health fertility is very sensitive and taboo. Yeah, so people, they hesitate to talk about it and openly, and then although maybe some of them they use our services, but they hesitate to share to their friends or family because they don't want to be think, oh, this person is facing issue with infertility. Yeah, so like company like us, like especially social impact startup, we must work with the company or corporate or policy maker. Yeah, so today I'm very grateful that I'm be able to collaborate and then speak in this opportunity. Yeah, but for speaking with corporate, when I talk to HR, usually HR say, oh, this fertility is sensitive, it's personal, we can't do anything, when we discuss about corporate employee benefit. Yeah, so it's really challenging for us to go into corporate. Yeah, although, women's health is, affect, productivity and then performance eventually, but it's really hard for us to convince. But for speaking of policy maker, like since I'm Japanese, I can bring one of the example is in Tokyo in 2020. Since 2020, the government, especially in Tokyo, they announced that egg freezing is subsidized. Yeah, so the Tokyo we can claim up to 8,000 ringgit. Yes, and then the age between 18 to 39. Then it's really convinced, and then the media and also companies talk about it, and then awareness went up. After they announced this subsidy, and then now about 4,500 women in Tokyo done the egg freezing. So because policy, there's a policy change, so it's influence the egg freezing awareness. Yeah, so because of this, and then company like Lumirious, or social impact startup or corporate, we must work with corporate and policy makers, and then startup. What we could do is I believe we can innovate very fast, and then for corporate they have like scale, they can help us to scale, and policy maker we can move forward together with these three if we work together. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak in this Manulife this.
And thank you for sharing. Yes, I'm gonna.
I want to quickly add something to that, because it's very interesting what you kept saying, Anna, that these topics are taboo.
So what we said is we wanted to look at women's health, right? And so we ran a workshop, and I think I shared this at the community of all our senior leadership teams, so not just Mexico, but below them. And we went through this human-centered design kind of process, and it's very interesting, the team which won, because of course it was a competition, the team which won, they talked about the different stages of women's lives, and this was a guy who was standing up and saying that not only is this for women, but it's also for their partners, male partners, who are able to help them with, husband, father, brother, son, depending on which stage. And so they were openly talking about things like, when in the growth, it's menstruation. So once puberty hits, then what happens after that? All the complexities with that. Then maybe it is pregnancy. Maybe it's post-pregnancy. Postnatal. Maybe it is perimenopause. Maybe it's menopause. The fact that they were able to talk about this so openly, I think 10 years ago, I wouldn't have expected it. And 10 years ago was not that long ago. And so, we are on this journey also to see where do we take that workshop, not just to make it a workshop, again, turn it into a communication, send out an email, but where do we take that next? But I thought the thing of taboo is very interesting, that you're saying that your clients still feel that.
Yeah.
And so perhaps it is, members of the media, I would actually suggest that, you take that cause up also. And if you will say it in public, then a lot of people will say it's okay to talk about it, I think.
Yeah, and I actually, that was my question to you. Because it was talking about, you mentioned when we...
This wasn't set up, as you can see. You not rehearsed this.
Because this is why we're having this conversation, because this is what is at the back of our mind. We're thinking about it, and the policy, whether it's policy, and you mentioned something independent, even earlier on, Vibha mentioned something about our national policy here, and that's how we kind of because it's a business imperative as well to make sure it's aligned with the businesses that we run here. But now I'm gonna kind of pick, because we mentioned just now we have that workshops in our among our people to have that conversation, making it more familiar within their thought process. And I want to go back to Yoon Yee, because while we have this, how do we create that familiarity with the cultural nuances, the stigma, the taboo within our workspace? How do we create, like Grace mentioned, a psychological safety for people to constantly have that within their conversation at the workplace, especially in a company like us where we are in health protection. We need to talk about it, we need to understand it in order to design our products and solutions. So how do you create that space?
I probably, still go back to my earlier sharing. It's the environment that we operate, it's the culture, it still goes back to the values, and from how we actually carry ourselves on a daily basis. So not just that, so when a staff starts seeing that oh, okay, this is acceptable, that we can actually have this kind of conversation. So there's a lot of ask from our leaders all the time to actually create a psychological safety space, that we also actually encourage them that before you respond, listen first and be very open. So sometimes we talk about taboo because just like what Anna was saying, when she approached the corporate HR, it's like it's gonna be sticky. Now what I'm gonna do differently, and I have already started doing, is before I say no, why not just listen and understand? So I'm using myself as an example, but as an organization, how to make it real is to actually be able to create that kind of forum, be able to actually, also like what Vibha was sharing, we just had, a lot of workshops along the way. That makes it real for people to say, that's the right direction to go forward to as well. The more we talk about it, the more we actually create awareness, the easier for people to be able to open up and say, yes, I think that's a pathway to go forward to. So Abby, if I were just to actually stress, I'm using Manulife as an example. I'm sure a lot of organizations does something along the same line. But what we did is basically not just, that's the beauty of our company as well. We are a regional, we are a multinational company. So a lot of times, policies or events or whatnot was being shared to us. We actually bring this back to Malaysia to localize it as well. So that is to be able to actually create that kind of synergy in a way. And I think that's important because the beauty of an organization is to be able to actually allow that kind of openness and be able to share. That's why a lot of times, especially in the last 2 years, I just joined the organization not long. So maybe it's a personal experience for me to actually see how a different organization operate purely because we really walk the talk. So when we say that we wanted to do certain things, it's not just by the values and whatnot. We really create a lot of activities surrounding it.
Right. And if I just want to check in with Grace because we talk about at perspective of our own organization, but you also see the placement of people in different organizations, right? And I think, like Yuni mentioned it, having that policy from global and seeing how we can implement it as well, and this requires systemic change. So how do you see that going through the corporations or organizations that you work with, where you place in the workforce? So has that been championed, that change being championed throughout? Is it something that we are witnessing within the workplaces in Malaysia?
Yes. So I think too loud. Okay, when it comes to this, right, I totally agree that everything it needs to come from the management. It needs to have a very clear directive on this. I think what makes us successful to be able to continue on the journey for so long is because our management, the Datuk, when he mentioned he want to start this, is a very clear directive that this is not just a CSR, it is actually part of our DNA, one of the initiatives under Yayasan Gamuda that we should carry it on. And not only that, he also kind of equipped the successor as well. I think it's important not just having a champion, it's also having the successor to the champion. Because a lot of time that we observe in a lot of companies that we work with, they may start with a lot of passion when there is a key champion running it, but the problem comes when the champion left. And we will need to restart the whole process again. And I think the policy, the systematic change is very important, where if the management is clear, if they really have a designated person, like even though now the key champion may be retired, but we still have other people to carry on the legacy. So that is important. And also in terms of the support, it's not just the direction given. We have seen a lot of partner companies, management say we want 1%. But the problem is, if the people on ground are not fully equipped, it won't be possible. And usually, it will just stop at just internship, that's all. And I don't have headcount to continue to actually convert them to a permanent or contract. So this is something to consider for even the recruiter, from recruiter to the department who are taking them in, and even for the support team who is supporting them as well. So this is the whole thing about how you can be neuro-inclusive during the recruitment process, onboarding, and even to oversee their career growth and progressions as well.
Yeah, thank you, Grace, for highlighting that from the management point of view and from the leadership point of view, because that's where I want to go back to Vibha, looking at, because Vibha has mentioned earlier, we do have workshops, we do create, we do brainstorm, those have that creative brainstorm within our process. But how do you nurture that within the management to see that this is the strategic direction? This is our part of our business strategy. This what leads not only our organization but also our business.
Okay, so I'm going to say something which is very trite and which shouldn't surprise any of you. KPIs, they really help.
Yeah.
I mean, so we can all come together, hug each other, sing kumbaya, say, oh, let's think about where underserved communities are, create a lovely workshop, we all go, we're really enthusiastic, people have fun, someone wants prizes, we say okay. The question is, we have to keep ourselves accountable and say, what now? So let me talk about Enable Academy, by the way, because I met Lawrence too, and it was like an amazing experience. And we just, because it surprised me more than anything else, I didn't realize he was neurodivergent. And I knew it within 30 seconds, after I spoke. And I completely had to do a double flip about how I spoke to him next. Because I have a nephew who's very similar ability. So it's interesting for me to see that at workplace. But we were sitting around Exco, and I really like your comment on, make sure multiple people have skin in the game rather than one person who's a champion. And we kept saying, we don't have headcount for this, we need to clean this up, we need to clear that up, we need a couple of interns, it's not intern season. And I think it was me or someone just said, just go to Enabling Academy. See whether they've got a couple of people who can do this. And this is like, a great opportunity to see whether people are cultural fit with us and whether we are patient enough and we are learners to actually make sure that people have cultural fit with us. So I think it's a question of, in every opportunity, making sure everyone is held accountable to those 2 or 3 things you want to do. So women's health, for example, because we are also working with some HCD regional colleagues, they're coming back and they're sitting down with me and going, now let's prioritize. This is what came out. Here are all the opportunities. That's what I'm saying, we are starting this journey. I wish I could say to all of you, we are there, we are absolutely, I can tell you best in class, we are not. So we are going through this journey, but we want to make sure we don't create this conversation every 6 months and tick a box somewhere on a KPI.
And that kind of I want to give a wrap-up question before we open the floor, questions from the floor. And I know that's, the question was, what is your wish list for how everyone can contribute? And you mentioned KPI and accountability, but maybe other than that, what would be that wish list that you think where driving inclusion, they can drive inclusion within their roles and their places? And we're not just talking about just the roles of people within Manila, but even the industry. Like now we have the media, we have the public. What are other things within your wish list that people can champion?
I think to be able to speak about taboo subjects and not make it taboo. I think that's the biggest thing for me, because having been through almost every life stage of a woman, sometimes it does feel very unsupported, and so it is really wonderful if the press, I would say more than anybody else, also picks this up as something which is important, because you create not only awareness in the community, but because it is open, people will talk about it and go to somebody and say, look, I read this article, can I mention this to you? So that's the first thing. I know it's one wish, but there's a second wish I have. It's also in terms of neurodivergence. I think for us to just not think, I used to say, we will know we've arrived when we don't have a DE&I committee anymore. Why do we need a DE&I committee? It's just like, everyone belongs. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that day.
All right, and Anna, what's your wish list?
Yeah. For me, awareness is compared to the time I start my business, women's health awareness itself is better than before. But now again, taboo, and then people still hesitate to talk in public. So if today many media is here, so I would like my wish list is to media to talk more about this women's health, men's health. It's nothing ashamed of, nothing to be shy. We can talk about it openly, so that if for those who need support, they can go and see the doctor or take necessary actions.
Yeah. And we'll move to Yoon Yee.
So my wish list is for people to pay it forward. If you are in the position to give an opportunity to another individual who is slightly different from you, please do so. So that would be my wish list. There will be one day that people will not actually have a different lens, that this person is of a different ability. Give that person an opportunity and let them prove themselves.
And last, Grace.
Thank you. And when you have met one person with a neurodivergent conditions. You have just met one. So which I would like to encode that even though some, they may have the preconceived idea based on some unpleasant experience, let's not conclude that everyone is the same. So do be open to give the opportunity for them to be able to thrive.
Thank you so much. Oh, and now we would like to open the floor. If you have any questions to our speakers, please. Anyone?
Yes, if you can just raise your hand.
Raise your hand and then introduce your name and also which publication you're from. Sorry. Any questions?
I feel like Randy has a question.
All right.
Hi guys, my name is Randy. I work for the Star Success. First and foremost, I would like to say this is an excellent initiative. Very interesting topics, very meaningful and very current. For me too, because I've got a 10-year-old who is growing up and touching puberty. I've got my mom just left me, just left us. She was in palliative care, and dad just left us also. So, and I looked after them. And I've got a sister who is a special child. She's the eldest in the family. So, coming back to that taboo topic, right? When we were growing up, we never used to hear things about mental health. We never used to hear things about, stress. Our parents raised like 5-6 children, so no issues, yeah. Nowadays, you see so many people going through mental stress, and the government trying to curtail video games and for the children. My kids play the game called Roblox, and I don't monitor, but they know their limits. So anyway, long story cut short, so how does one, Yoon Yee, right?
Yes.
Okay, how do you guys discuss all this and come up with a product, say some mental health product? How do you guys, do you get experts on this, or because there's so many things out there people don't want to talk about nowadays. There are so many people are shy to talk about, women's health, menopause and all that. So, but it's real, And I am thankful that my parents are very open with me, and so I learned everything. And so you guys, in terms of your products, in terms of your whatever, right? How do you guys manage this?
So, maybe I'll start first.
Let me just start first, and I will actually go on the prompts of the people first, from a HR perspective. So my title is CPO, so it's people rather than product, and I'll leave my boss, to talk about the product. Okay, but I really like to touch on this part about how do we actually encourage people to normalize and talk about it. So I think Abby started off by saying that we actually bring in a lot of speakers to come in, and it's bite-sized for our employees here. So it could be over the lunch 1 hour. One of the recent event that we did is actually to invite a speaker on mental health, and that's only for my employees, right? And why is it important? Because even employees sometimes adult like us, there's a lot of times we have no space to actually say that this is okay. And after the event, after the speakers actually finish off, the carrying message was, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to actually reach out for help. And that was a very powerful message for a lot of us, because in a very stressful environment, people, even a normal people like us, sometimes just need to actually say that today is not an okay day, and I need someone to talk to. So how I actually value add in terms of the environment that I operate in is definitely to actually bring these kind of events a lot more and a lot more real, so that people will be able, or colleagues like me will be able to actually have the understanding that it's okay. It's not sick It's not an unhealthy thing to say that's not working. So if from the media colleagues here, I would encourage you to actually also bring that kind of awareness to that level, which is why we are having this kind of session. Now, in terms of product, that's where it's not my expertise, and I have to actually delegate upwards to my boss.
Thank you. It works really well, obviously. But thank you very much for sharing your story, because I think it touches each one of us actually what we're talking about today. And it's touched me in multiple ways also, besides being a woman, but even in terms of neurodivergence, as I said, or mental health, right in direct family and nephews and cousins and stuff like that. Now, so we started off by grounding this in real life. We were actually saying, is this real life or is it marketing hype? We started actually, like 2-3 years ago, talking about this seriously. So, for example, when we talk about women's health, it's very interesting. People started sharing. So our CAO, our Chief Agency Officer, said, I don't know how to support my wife while she's going through menopause. People have never talked about this. Does anyone say that? No, you don't, unless you create the forum where it's really safe and we're all talking women's issues. And initially, even I felt a bit like, ooh, it's a bit awkward. I mean, I'm happy to go to my female colleagues and say, is it a hot flash or is it hot in here? And doing that seemed okay. But starting feeling more comfortable with just having little sort of, conversation that says, yeah, I'm going through a particular stage in life. And I think seeing what those stages are. So when we did this, the prenatal and the mental health part, I think a lot of us had gone through COVID. And so we realized that we got more exposed to it. And people, thankfully now, are able to say it a lot more. I think 30 years ago, people didn't have as many incidences, not because they didn't have it, it's because they had it's like, you'll be okay, you just need to be tougher. No one understood that, there's a chemical imbalance or you're wired differently. No one understood that. So I think that understanding, all of us are seeing that in real life. And so we're bringing that in. Like I said to you, it's just a journey, we've just started, right? So bringing in mental health has been a big thing for us. In that whole product suite where we're talking about retirees, for example, we didn't go and do research, but we thought about these concepts. The people we research with, interestingly for us, is not the end customer. We actually research which are agents. Because they're very close to customer base. They know what they ask them for. And they say, does this include this? Does it include that? So they come and give us very rich information. And actually say, oh, this one, I don't think this is a big issue for them. You might think it's big, and you think, this is a product you want. No, that's not a great feature. How about this though? My customers are actually saying at 70, they need wheelchairs, they need the home care, but none of our insurance covers it. So what can we do about that? So Future Shield, for example, is one of those. Or we can actually say, Naluri, our partner we spoke to, they were talking to us, and he gave us this example of his father who had cancer, went through cancer treatment. But that was physical treatment, and what happened is he went into depression, and they had to really manage it. No one covered that. So we decided when we were going to do a health product that we'll cover mental health, post-care mental health also. Also during pregnancy, postnatal depression is a well-known phenomenon. It's short-term but well-known phenomenon. So how do we help our customers there? So I think a lot of us were using life experiences, honestly. I wish I could tell you, I commissioned this great study. We didn't, but we did touch base with people and say, does that resonate with you? And usually our agency, we've got a group of leaders, and we say to them, will that resonate? Do your customers ask this? What else do your customers ask for? What else do our customers ask for? Not yours, but our customers. But they're, when someone's ill, they call their agent first to actually, get them into a hospital or something. So at least they know a lot more detail. So that's where we've been going. But your question has made me think as to how do I make this more structured. So I'll take that away as a thought for me. Thank you for asking the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other question? Oh, go ahead. All right.
My name is Wesley. I'm from Chili Sauce Media. So for Ms. Anna, I wanted to ask, what women's health trends should organizations prepare for over the next 5 years? And I also have another question for Ms. Grace, is that what simple structures can organizations put in place to better support neurodivergent employees?
Yeah, for next 5 years. So regarding general women's health, I think the awareness is getting higher. Yeah, like talking about like women's health, like fertility, egg freezing, PCOS, and so on. So those younger generation, they also start to aware that we need to start taking action of prevention. Yeah, but right now the current policy or support is still not enough. Like for example, regarding women's health, menstrual issues, PCOS, endometriosis, about 3.4 million women in Malaysia has this. Either they already have some symptoms or still don't have anything but symptoms, but eventually they in the future they have this endometriosis or what in the future. There are 3.4 million from our studies, but not many people, like for example in terms of the PCOS, if they don't get take proper medication, eventually they get endometrial cancer. Yeah, and endometriosis cancer. Yeah, but not many people knows about it. So we need to have proper support, and then also corporate. They can't just provide the general employee benefit. They need to be personalized and then support something that although the symptom is not there, they start to convince the employees to see the doctor or do the screening. Yeah, more occasionally, at least once a year. So next 5 years, for me what I see is the current employee benefit or support is not good enough. We need to be personalized and support gender-specific health issues, not only women's health but also men's health, menopause, and also mental health issues. So we need to cover these areas within next 5 years. We need to focus.
Thanks, Anna. And over to Grace.
Thanks for the question. So I think first thing first is just like I mentioned, you have met one, because each of them really is very different. So what the company can do is really have to ask the individual what is their preference and what is their support needs. And actually the real support comes even during the pre-recruitment process, or how you can make it like really neuro-inclusive, because especially for people with neurodivergent conditions like autism, it's always a lot of uncertainties what to expect. Who am I meeting, and also what kind of questions, and also I must have eye contact. So these kind of things must be very, very anxious for them. So it's more on giving them a clarity of information. Access to information is important. When you deal with people with neurodivergent conditions, it's important to make sure that the information given is clear. And sometimes for us, something is clear, but is it really clear? So it can be quite ambiguous as well. So this is very important for us to redefine, and how we can make sure that the information that we give is sufficient and clear and comprehensive for the neurodivergent. And when it comes to even the interview process, that whether we can actually see beyond the traditional interview approach, not just relying on how well someone can speak and to communicate and to engage in an eye contact. I have someone who is very talented in a managerial role with autism. Eye contact for her is very, very exhausting. Every time after interview, she will sleep off throughout the night, because it's really too much thing to process as they focus on someone's eye. And so usually when they're looking away, it doesn't mean that they are not listening. It's actually better for them to process and to construct the sentences. So I think it requires the understanding of the interviewers as well about the specific needs of the person. And also sometimes it's just the processing delay, that they may have some pause before they answer certain things. So this is an interview process for certain things that we need to take note. Even when it comes to onboarding, sometimes it can be confusing. We need to look for this person, this person, this person. So it's like really, really full of uncertainties. Can it be just one person that follow through? that there's one key buddy that can actually guide them? And is there an appointment of supervisor or buddies that can work alongside with them? A key reference that I can refer to. So I think this is very important. And the other thing is the training and the preparation of the line managers, the buddies, because it really comes with a lot of soft skills of the line managers to know how to adapt the communication approach, not to rely on how we usually speak, how we usually assign the task, but be creative, be flexible, be agile, and be sensitive to how they work. So if they cannot learn the way we teach them the way they learn. So I think this is a very important skills among the line managers as well. So I would say these are a few things.
Thank you, Grace. I hope that answered. So we have a question? Sure.
For Vibha, so why is inclusion a strategic priority for Manulife Malaysia, and how is the company using that into the real business capabilities?
Thank you very much for that question. I think I alluded to this before when I was actually saying, why is this strategic imperative? I mean, this day and world, if we are not inclusive, then I think we miss out, and I'm saying it from a completely commercial way. We'll miss out on so many opportunities. We miss out on opportunities on getting a workforce which has got different perspectives, different strengths, I mean, think about even gender diversity, which is a bit easier to understand, right? Before we go to neurodivergence. We have about 50% of our population there. Now, if we don't even think that they're going to, and I'm not saying let's get someone unqualified in, I'm saying there's a lot of qualified people out there, but we don't actually take that as a strategic imperative, we will miss out on huge pools of talent out there, which we won't even have. From a underserved market, if you don't go and say, I want to include a lot more underserved market people, we'll again miss out on a whole lot of stuff. So how do we create trust and confidence in us as a company? If we are inclusive, we create more trust and confidence. And this is something which I posit to you. I think we do. Because people think, oh, they're going for this very profitable segment which everyone knows, but they're actually spending some time thinking, money, on developing stuff which is slightly different, so they're addressing people's needs. And that's why I'm saying when we actually embed it into our business processes, it helps much more. So embedding into business processes such as product development, service development, HR policies, I think that's how we'll actually get there. And so those segments I was talking about, women, family, retirees, I think those are the kind of areas which strategically will create value for us. That's why at the Inclusion Summit, if any of you were there, in my opening I actually said I've done all this research with McKinsey, had done all this research before. And it's fascinating, and I would suggest, if you just Google it up, it'll come up, McKinsey diversity research. And they talk about boards, they talk about workforce, they talk about decisions made, they talk about, investments and ROI when diverse people are involved, as to the quality of those ROIs, the quality of the investment, the quality of, it goes up exponentially. The fact that you can have 25% more likely to make so much more profit. I think these are powerful kind of reasons from a strategic imperative to do that. I always say it's the right thing to do. I mean, first thing, share your humanity is a key value for us. It is the right thing to do. But then people say, oh, then you're doing community service, huh? I'm going, no. Strategically, it's a great idea also. And so I hope I answered your question. I'll give you another, thank you.
Right. All right.
Yes, I have one question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead first.
It's alright, you can go for it. No? Right. Hub UGC from Newswave for Miss YY. And the question is, how's Manulife is providing structure in supporting neurodivergent employees in the long run?
So, let me just be very honest here.
For me.
It's a journey for us as well. So, if I were to actually answer you in a very structured way, I am definitely, probably going to not wing it. It's a journey for us, which means that, I'm also relying on my partners, engaging, the right people to come in to actually teach us as well. So as we go along, that structure becomes a lot more clearer. So let me just begin. Just now I heard Vibha was talking about starting from, challenging my business leaders. If you have a vacancy, would you consider, someone with a slightly different disability to actually join the workforce? And I don't take no for an answer. They actually have to explain as to why they can't be. So even from the very starting point, we have already actually, made that conversation. Would you consider actually, giving this person an opportunity? If they say yes, obviously, then, I start triggering my partners to come in to supply. Now, beyond that, once you say okay, not okay, then we start looking at the profiles of the candidates as well. Now, in Manulife, which is something that, I also learned when I joined the company, we do not ask a lot of details. Age, for example, or gender, for example, is not seen in our process. So at least it's something that's new in us. When we look at the profile of the CV, we look at whether the person is qualified or not. So from that process, it's already something that I felt is another step forward. The first step is actually asking, would you consider? Second step is, when we look at the person's profile, we don't look at whether the person has a disability or not, or whether it's a male or female. So that's the second step. Now the third step, of course, then this is a personal experience for HR. When we decided that we are going to actually bring someone with a slightly different ability, and I don't think Grace have actually touches it, the amount of effort for us to understand, not because we need to actually give them a special treatment, but to make it a success journey, we need to understand what works for both sides, so that my leaders don't feel like they are compelled to actually bring themselves down. But it's also an experience for them to actually say, oh, when a person cough, this is a real life example in my HR team. We have a very small office area. So one of my colleagues actually coughed, and it sort of actually, really aggravate, the colleague who is actually differently able, Lawrence in this case. And from that, we also learn that, okay, maybe, when we sneeze, maybe just cover. So little things that we learn, and my colleagues who's in the department were saying that, why I actually learn, because sometimes we are not sensitive, whether it's a special person or not. Sometimes it's just being sensitive to other people's needs. So I hope I actually explained to you as to why personal journey from Manulife, we take step by step. And as we grow, when we actually get a right partner to be part of it, we start to understand, hey, look, it doesn't mean that we have to actually change all our system. It just means that we have to understand, and also for a person like Lawrence to understand, because we also give feedback to the coach. They actually assign a coach, by the way. They assign a coach to help us in this journey. So that's the beauty of it. If there's another message I probably just wanted to share, again stealing a little bit of time here, is to be able to get the right partner to be with you in this journey. It's not an easy journey, but it's not an impossible journey. Okay?
Thank you.
I've got one question, two questions. One question for Anna. You spoke about taboo in Malaysia. How do you compare the taboo subjects for women in Malaysia and in Japan?
That's a good question, but I think taboo in everywhere is quite similar, except what I see from Europe or US, they're more open-minded, but Asian countries, we are quite similar. Even Japan, they are still very shy to talk about women's health. So, but we slowly change is because the one I mentioned is because of the media. And policy, they start to talk about it in the media, like TV, YouTube, and then they realize, oh, it's we don't have to be shy and stuff. Yeah, but so again, answering your question, for me, Asian countries too, sensitive and taboo compared to Europe. I hope we can change within the next few years.
One question for Grace. Have you come across where say a neurodivergent needs to be terminated?
Oh yes, for sure. So we are saying they are, even though yes with neurodivergent, but let's say if really with all the, actually one thing that I want to emphasize is in this journey of embarking into neurodiversity hiring, it's not charity based, it's equity concept. So it's not so much as we sympathize them, we just want to hire them even though they are not a good fit, even though we have put in all the efforts, it still didn't work, then it shouldn't be just keep them for the sake of keeping. So equity is about, we know that we are clear of their neurodivergent conditions, we know that maybe they have sensory issues, they prefer a quieter workplace, so maybe we do some adjustment, then we give them a quiet workstation that could allow them to be able to do work. Or maybe, like just now what Vibha mentioned, that each of the trainees that we support, we have a job coach. So the job coach will be the one that is the one who journey with the partner companies. If there is a point that we notice is more on the attitudes of and the problems of the individuals, it is a mutual agreement that the termination may need to take place. Or maybe sometimes it could be due to certain disciplinary actions when certain things are being conducted, then yes, we will respect the company policies. So again, let's say if it is something is because of the needs of the neurodivergent conditions, usually it will be mediated between the job coaches and the partner companies to see whether certain accommodation can be given to the neurodivergent for them to be able to succeed in the workplace. So in that case, it could be the job scope, maybe we can customize, or maybe we can increase the time, the submission time, to allow them to have adjustment time as well. So these are some of the things that we'll be doing. Yeah.
Thank you, Grace. I know that our Chief Marketing Officer would like to chime in to some of the questions that were raised earlier on by Randy and Lisa.
About underserved and how we actually, Zurami, to your question, how do we identify the different segments on inclusivity? I think it starts with removing our unconscious bias, right? For example, in some segments, for neurodivergent, right? When we say neurodivergent, automatically the unconscious bias will feel that, okay, they are differently abled, hence they may not be equal to us on a day-to-day basis. But that's not true. They are just uniquely abled, and that's where we have to just adjust ourselves. There are segments in the business, for example, women's health, right? It's not something that we would say, oh, okay, because it's not normal or it's not usual that we actually do this as a product, but it doesn't mean that it cannot be done. Because insurance has been in business for hundreds of years, 200 years. We work the same way, we do things the same way, and this is where I think it just ticked on us or triggered us to think things differently, look at what's today's need and how do we adjust our products accordingly. For example, I think, Randy, welcome back. Lovely to see you. And so sorry about your family as well. But I'll give you an example of our MHSE product, our medical card, right? As what Vibha has mentioned, we've got preventative in there. And one of the preventative feature is HPV vaccination. We actually provide HPV vaccination for our customers, and it is addressed for women, right? Because eventually, if we prevent that, then we'll prevent cervical cancer. So, and how do we know this? We know this through the media. Media is the role that plays the most important role in making a normal conversation, that it will not be a taboo. And this is where we're seeking your support in, driving that awareness and making it normal for discussion.
Not leaving anyone behind, is listening to all these voices, and like Anna mentioned, awareness that we need to create, and we all play a role in our respective, day-to-day and even in our life. We need to hear more real-life stories in order to come up with the solutions and to create the environment that is safe for everyone and to give that sense of belonging to everyone. So with that, I thank you so much for everyone joining, and I'm going to pass it back to Karvi. And also to thank you, Vibha, Anna, and Yoon Yee, and Grace. So